Have you ever just not been able to function? Like, you know that you need to accomplish things, and you're typically a highly motivated person, but just this week has come and you got nothing. No reserves to pull from, no energy, no, just nothing. And not necessarily that you're in a bad mood, and not necessarily that you feel depressed, so to speak, but just you got nothing left. So that's where I'm at this week. Um, and it's taken me a long time to get in a space where I can accept this and understand it and be able to talk about it from a place of it just is for me. It is very much a part of who I am. It is part of how my brain works. And I just need to be able to give that space. So today I'm hoping to be able to recreate some things for you that I've done for myself and allow you to put in the time and work and understand. It's taken me a good probably 3 years to be at this point, but it took some things to get here. It took a whole lot of tears. So if you are in the space currently and you're sobbing, like, dude, I get it. I promise I understand. Um, and I was really bothered by it this week and then realized that I've created a life to be able to support my mental health. So this last weekend, I stayed home with the kid. I don't think I left my house for 2 days, and my wife, and we watched Marvel movies, and we ate comfort food, and we hung out at home. And I was like, all right, cool, this will be a really good reset, and I'll be refreshed, and I slept 12 hours a night, and like, I'll feel ready to rock. And Monday morning, I saw my alarm clock and went, I don't wanna. So I did what I know how to do, and I showed up. I went to yoga, albeit late, and all the things that go with that train wreck in your head. So I showed up to yoga, and I did yoga, and then I went downstairs, and I just stared at my phone. Not even like scrolling social media or YouTube or anything mildly that I could convince myself was useful. It wasn't. And in that moment, I had to recognize that I just didn't have it this week. Still don't. I'm still struggling. I'm on day 4 of trying to process and do the things. And so what I realize is that I'm a highly motivated person. I have dreams and I have goals and I have things that I want to be able to do. And with that comes the flip side of myself. So I have something called bipolar 2. And there are a lot of studies that actually share that people with bipolar or bipolar 2 may just be people that have been misdiagnosed with PTSD. Like, they get diagnosed with bipolar and bipolar 2 instead of PTSD and traumas. And I've lived a life with some trauma, so I can get that. And for me, I'd say that's probably closer. And so sometimes the things that happen in my head aren't bad. It's not like I'm sitting here triggered. It's not like I'm living in flashbacks, and it's not like I'm feeling bad at myself. I don't feel like the hole that I can't climb out of, which is usually my easy metric for depression, and easy for me to say, okay, this is what I have, and these are my steps. So my steps for depression, my steps for anxiety are very different than this place I'm in now, which is just, I'm beat. December is a marathon run for us as stylists, so I'm not surprised. And one of the things that I realized is that I finally have created the life that supports me to have days like this. So for example, I met with one of the managers of one of the companies, and we sat down, and we always set an agenda the day before. Well, we set the agenda the day before for 2 reasons. One, so that when we're face to face, we know what we're talking about. Because we like each other, so we could go on tangents forever, right? So we know specifically, okay, these are the items we're going to accomplish. The other reason we do that is so that when I show up and don't have all my marbles together, I can be present. So when we showed up to the meeting, I looked at her and said, I'm having a day. My days just look like low spoons. And just spoons, for those of you that don't know. When I found out that I had health issues. I wasn't able to always describe, like, I feel good, and then all of a sudden I don't have anything. I don't have any energy. I don't have any processing power. And I read an article and it talks about spoons. So whereas able-bodied people might have 5 spoons that they start their day with, and getting dressed doesn't take a spoon away from them, and pouring a cup of coffee doesn't take a spoon away from them. In my world, on a day like this, I just lost 2 spoons. So I have to really think about, okay, what are these 3 spoons do I have? Getting my kid dressed is probably another spoon. So I'm very limited in how much I have in a day. And not every day is like that because I've healed a lot of things. However, I still have a body that has things that I'm trying to heal and trying to work on. And with my, I don't want to say disabilities because I feel like that's offensive to people that have to fight more than I do. But with the issues I have, there are days that I'm going to be lower spoons. So this is a low spoons week. And with that being said, I have to understand that all of my energy, my mental energy, is going to go into physical energy for this week. So telling somebody that I'm having a day or a low spoon day doesn't mean I'm in a bad mood. And it doesn't mean that I'm cranky. And it doesn't mean that I'm angry with people. Right? Like, none of that is a thing. It just means that I need to be aware. So the first thing I'm going to tell you is that if you are someone that struggles with low spoons, if you are someone that struggles with just running into weeks where, like, you just have been steamrolled, but you're not really sure why, and maybe sometimes there isn't a reason, be intentional. In each moment, be intentional. Quit worrying about the big picture. Quit worrying about what's coming, because it's all going to be there. I promise. It's going to be there. And just be really intentional with what's in front of you. So when I have, the yoga manager in front of me, that's what I'm talking to, and that's what I'm focusing on. And some of the key phrases I use is, can you make sure to send me that list so I don't drop the ball? Can you do this for me so that we make sure we do this together? So there's a lot of advocating. There's a lot of asking for help. And I'd kind of like to get rid of this misnomer that independent people don't ask for help. I think that's crap. I think some of the most successful people in the world are the people that have learned to advocate for themselves and have learned to utilize the people that are smarter than them. And when I'm in a lone spoons week, I really have to be able to do that. So, 1, identify it. Call it what it is. You're not in a bad space. You're not a bad human because you can't do these things. And quite frankly, it doesn't even make you less successful. Like, just because you're low energy and just because you're low functioning that day doesn't mean you failed that day. It doesn't mean you failed life. Don't let yourself go down that train wreck. Okay, so acknowledge what it is. I am low. I have low whatever. But don't attach that to the negative that can come after that, because I think that's what could drag me into depression really quickly. That's what could drag me into, I'm going to live here for the next 2 weeks. And I'm not really interested in that life because, quite frankly, I have a really good life. And I want to keep it that way, which means sometimes I have to fight more than others and fight up here, not fight out there. So acknowledge it with the people around you and let them know you have days like this. It's not like you have to tell everybody. You don't have to go tell your bosses and managers and things, but if you're part of my inner circle or you're part of the hierarchies within my companies, you need to know that this is the kind of human I am. I'm going to have low energy days. I'm going to have days where I'm going to email you at 4 a.m. Can't really guarantee which one of me you're going to get that way because I don't know. But at the end of the day, I can guarantee you one thing. I will have your back. So here's who I am. Here's how you deal with me. So rather than getting the pity that comes with things or getting the frustrations, like, I just flat out tell people, here's how you deal with me when I'm like this. Make sure you follow up with me. Make sure you write it down, because that way there's clear communication, and quite frankly, that's just a good business sense. So yes, I'm having to train my friends on it and train managers on it, but really just makes sense, right? So make sure there's that follow-up. Give yourself grace. You're human. You're not a machine. You're not perfect. You don't need to be perfect. You need to give yourself space and grace. I didn't mean to make that rhyme, but I did. And sometimes that grace is just acknowledging how you feel and allowing yourself to move through it. So notice that I didn't say get rid of it or get over it or get past it. Move through it. Because as I move through this, because I'm currently feeling this right now, like as I move through this, I'm no longer holding on to the resentment to myself. I'm no longer feeling guilty for what I can't show up to. I'm not feeling guilty for the things that I can't go to, right? But I am aware that I haven't done some of the self care that I need to do. I'm not foam rolling like I need to do. I'm not drinking as much water as I need to do. So these are little things that I can be aware of, and I can't fix them when I'm in this space. I can't. And I have to give myself the grace to acknowledge that. But as I start climbing out of it, that awareness means I will just inadvertently wind up drinking more water. I'll inadvertently show up to yoga earlier because it's awareness rather than a yelling at myself. I've never really done well with that. Like that, it doesn't get me anywhere. It just makes me feel guilty, and then I do things out of resentment, and then I'm an asshole. And I don't. I've spent a lot of years being an asshole. Kind of don't want to do it anymore. It's not a thing I want to be a part of. And then, last but not least, and this is the part that's taken me about 3 years to get to this point, is get yourself a schedule that works for your mental health. So, in the back of my head, I have the naysayers right now that say that they have to work 40 hours a week, that they have to do this and they have to do that to be able to make ends meet. And please know I have the empathy for that. But it's not the life path I took. I could have made those choices too. The life path I took meant that I had to take leaps of faith. It meant that I had to do things a very different way. So if that is the path you're on, I hear you and I do understand, but I'm no longer there. So unfortunately, the only thing I can speak to is where I am. And I do run 3 companies where I encourage my employees to do this too. So it's not like I'm saying that, oh, I'm the boss and I can do it. But create a schedule for yourself that you know when you're in this mode, what bare minimum looks like and what that schedule looks like. So, for example, I'm only behind the chair 2 days a week because my hands can't do more than that. My feet, currently I almost wore Crocs today because they're so swollen and so numb that I can barely walk on them. Thank God I'm not behind the chair today. So, I'm only able to be behind the chair. I can't even massage anymore because I don't have a life that sustains that. And that's a really hard conversation to have with yourself. But if you can have that conversation up here and have it with grace and with kindness and forgiveness, then as you walk through that and you start having those conversations with the people around you, those doors will open and opportunities will arise and things will change. So I'm also very rigid in my schedule. My schedule stays short. The amount of hours I work in a day are short, because that means that when I am having times like this, I can be on for 4 hours. I can do all the things and I can show up to everything with everything I have for that short time frame. And then after that, I crash. It might look like taking a nap. It might look like curling up with movies with my kid. Let me just tell you, my kid knows that when I'm in this place, we get a lot of snuggles on the couch. She doesn't complain. And I'm really open with her about this. Hey, I'm struggling mentally. Hey, I'm struggling physically. Hey, this is what I'd like to do so we still get time, but so that she's not taking on what I'm feeling, because that's not fair either. So get yourself a schedule that works well for you. If you know that you have either mental health or low spoons or a high energy job, don't stack yourself every weekend. Don't tell your family that you can show up to all these things, because you can't. So something my family knows and something my team knows is a lot of times when I get invited to things, my immediate answer is no. Because I got so tired of always saying yes and then having to come back and explain, sorry, I'm too depressed to get out of bed. Sorry, I can't come because I'm out of spoons. Hey, sorry, I can't feel my feet today, so I can't come. So it became easier for me just to say no to everybody. And then if the event came up and I could still go, I would ask, hey, do you still have room for me? And I could make that decision at the last minute, because that is how my body works and that's how my brain works. And here's the thing, it might sound really awkward to do things that way, but quite frankly, If you have trauma, if you have mental health, if you have physical shit, give yourself the fucking space to do what you need, not what other people around you need. And those that love you and adore you will learn that you're doing that. They might even ask you about it. I'm pretty honest with them. I say no because I don't know and I don't want to cancel. So those that are the closest to me and those that are really a part of me will still invite me to things. And here's the thing that you have to keep in mind. You don't get to say no 10 times and never show up 10 times. You get to say no every time and show up half the time. I hope that ratio helps, because at that point, 10 out of 10 no's and no showing up, they are going to stop. So it's okay to say no and then later say yes. And that's a lot easier for me to handle. And it gives me less guilt. So I'm able to handle things a little bit more with grace. And that's a big deal to me, because I don't want to be seen as somebody that doesn't want to be around. But I also need to protect who I am and the things that are here, so that when I have a week that I'm ready to hit the ground running, all of this is still here. Because I don't want to lose it. And I don't want to live in a place of fear, because if I live in a place of fear, then I will, quite frankly, shoot myself in the foot. I'm really good at that. The last thing I do is, when I'm in a good space, I live with post-it notes. Like, I can't tell you how often. I probably should take stock in this stuff. So when I'm in a good space and when I'm in a planning phase, I take the time to, I've got a planner that I write in, and then I've got post-it. Fun fact, there's a post-it app that you can run on your tablets and your phones that let you take a photo of your post-its and it will let you rearrange on them. It's magic. Please use it. Anyway, so what this allows me is, this is my way of communicating with my future self. So when I'm planning things, when I'm going through these other things, if I have a day where it's like I'm brain foggy and I know there's things I need to do, but I couldn't tell you what they are, and I can't handle those big boulders that are hard to handle, I have room for the small little rocks. I can look at this and say, okay, well, this one says I need to work on loyalty for the coffee shop, and this one says I need to plan education for the salon. Okay, well, planning education for the salon is like a big boulder. It just gives me anxiety even talking about it. Not the headspace. So we'll put the big boulder aside, but the loyalty for the coffee shop, I just need to shoot off a quick email. Cool, done. And I can set that aside. Then I can keep going and I can look at, all right, I need to separate the utilities from the 4 companies. You know what? I don't have the energy to do all of that, but I can at least go in and take care of the electric bill. Or I can at least go in and take care of the trash bill. So taking this post-it and even breaking it down smaller means that I might do the loyalty on Monday and I might do the utilities today. And today's Thursday. So does that give you an idea of like how small a piece I'm taking, so that I still feel like I'm moving somewhere and I feel like I'm gaining traction, rather than losing it just because I'm on a low spoon, just because I'm struggling mentally that day. And so these are just my way of communicating with my future self, and a way that I don't get frustrated with myself later. Because the biggest struggle that I have is when I'm like this, when I'm in this space, it's not that I'm not willing to do things, it's just that I'm so not even lost. I'm just in a fog. And I don't want the fog to take over my chance at creating the things I want in life. I want to allow myself the space to be who I am, authentically, vulnerably, scared, but continue loving it. I may not like it, I may not like everything I do, but I love this life. And the only way I can do that is by creating the space and the grace to be able to take the time here. So just as a quick recap, create a schedule that works for you. Create something that, even if you can't get rid of your 9 to 5, like, look at how you can change things. Quit making lunch hour plans if you're not somebody that can give the energy on a lunch hour. Quit making extra plans every weekend if you're not somebody that can do that. It's keeping up with the Joneses, man, and that's so 1700s. Like, y'all, come on. Quit overscheduling yourself. Quit being busy to be busy, because it is crushing your soul. And I'm saying that because I've lived it. And then Be honest with people. Be honest with your counterparts. Be honest with your partners. Be honest with those in your circle. It's going to take some vulnerability. Allow them to ask questions, because those questions are how they understand and how you don't have to live from a place of pity, but a place of strength, by allowing people to ask you questions. And keep your boundaries. Where those questions go into places that they shouldn't have any business, just look at them and be like, Google it, not interested, whatever. But if it's in how to support you and things like that after being vulnerable, I recommend allowing some of those questions. And then last but not least, acknowledge this place that you're in and quit trying to get over it and quit trying to move past it. Move through it. And if you've scheduled yourself that time, it's going to be a lot easier to move through something and a lot easier to acknowledge it, because you're not trying to do all this other stupid shit that's not even getting you where you want to be. That's what I have for today. That's where I'm going to leave it at. Until next time, I'm Elizabeth Struess, and I hope these things are helpful. If they are, please write below the thing that was the most helpful to you, or the thing that you wish somebody would have told you 10 years ago. And if you have questions, make sure you reach out. Otherwise, subscribe, and thank you for being a part of Gracefully Unrefined.